was there. We spoke of was and when, although I wasn't there. He said I was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I never lost control. Your face to face with the man who sold the world.
Chapter 11. The city ran on corruption. Chairman feasted on the carcass of what his father built. Transparency was gone, and therefore the mistakes were evident. He never understood the game and cared only for the accolades. The line for Esquire's funeral snaked around 3rd Street, down Pine, and past 5th, filled with lawyers, politicians, bankers, executives, athletes, gangsters, cops, union leaders, assistants, lackeys, nonprofit leaders, old women, friends from Stone Harbor, and people from across Philadelphia who believed Esquire cared for them. Chairman stood guard at the receiving line, taking note of attendance more than appreciating their condolences. Esquire's daughter, sweet Melissa, was giving hugs and wiping tears. Every attendee was sure to sign the book. She would read that later and allow this moment for catharsis. Those who owed and received favors dropped cards directly to Chairman. They could do enough grifting to justify another week at the shore. Sam would be delivering a eulogy per Esquire's wishes. The family knew he was an essential part of the ceremony. Eleanor was propped up in a chair. Her waning health was on everyone's mind. She was taken care of, and Chairman had been publicly handling business matters for several years. The machine hummed along. A hush came over the congregation as Sam Pearson stepped to the podium. Esquire understood the pulse of this city. He built this city. Make no mistake, this man's humble public persona will forever be overshadowed by his presence in any private room. He glowed. His desire to help others gave me a calling in life. He spread life throughout the city. I'm not going to read his biography. His reputation speaks for itself. He made us all feel better by his presence, even when we didn't agree with his words. I might be speaking from experience. Smiles from colleagues and friends gave Eleanor permission to do the same. Lewis Price, Esquire, was a man who set out to do well and to do good. We are all better for it. We met in the second phase of his life, when he walked into the rec center where I was working. He was ready to give back. I don't know if we ever paid back the loan for the building, but if we did, he gave it 10 times over to people for good, and so many other good works in this town. While Sam pontificated from the pulpit, the mourners couldn't help but remember the trial that made Esquire a household name. In it, he defended the accused murderer of Officer Charles Randolph. It divided the city, and baffled many who saw the prominent lawyer as a buttoned-up chance for the Republican Party in Philadelphia. However, his peers rarely heard him speak on matters of race. Esquire had no doubt that his client fired the shots that killed the officer. But the question was, why had the officer shot first? Ballistics evidence, a bullet lodged in his client's shoulder, growing racial tensions, and eyewitness accounts created a media circus. Headlines of a white officer killed by a black man in the middle of the city presented countless contradicting tales, with sensationalized quotes from anonymous witnesses and caused a chaotic scene inside and outside the courthouse. The self-defense verdict and settlement from the city for the shooting caused racial tensions to explode and made Esquire a very wealthy man. He became hated in conservative circles for the publication's liberal slant, and his name was dismissed with an eye roll by progressives who found him out of touch. With age, he became synonymous with the unseen powers that be, who made good things happen at the assumed expense of his soul. Esquire was a good man, Sam continued. He carried himself in a way that inspired others to do the same. We met through business, but he invited me into his home, and then his family. He was a man who encouraged independence. I stayed by his side while he preached it. Now I will live it. I cannot express fully with words the depth of this loss. Our city lost a hero. I lost a mentor and a friend. I pledge to the Price family that Lewis's legacy will stay alive on every smiling face of anyone who is given an opportunity because of his generosity. The city's ruling crowd appreciated Sam's poise, but they would remain an arm's length in their relations. He preferred it that way. Sam took a seat next to Eleanor, who gripped his jacket sleeve with her feeble hands before whispering to him, "Did you mean all that?" "About half of it." She laughed and kept her arm on his while listening to the minister stumble without the use of his Bible, per Eleanor's request. This ceremony was not about faith. It was a matter of tact, serving the same purpose as their wedding. Words between Eleanor and her children were minimal since Esquire's passing. Her husband was gone, and the only person who could have understood their relationship was Sam. Esquire had the final word. The request to have him deliver the eulogy let his son know where he stood, displayed his respect for Sam, and exuded his control. He could have made the same point by asking sweet Melissa to share her feelings. She remained passed over even in death. Her twins were the most immature young men in the crowd. Jessica felt their eyes on her. Sam scanned the room full of portly, suited gentlemen awaiting the three-course repast at the Union League. Chairman never took the opportunity to grieve. Handshakes and hugs hid the knocking thought of the germs jumping from these people, suckling at his family's teat. He watched Sam comfort his mother in some bizarre ritual that no one seemed to have a problem with. He was not usurping the throne, but he was circumventing the opposition. Chairman knew that some who really cared about the inner workings of his prominent family checked their emotions in order to prepare for the business of receiving sympathy. This was grueling. His daughter did not care, and his wife was perfect as always. Carol courted the Lloyds at the funeral luncheon. A sweaty Jeff kept the bartenders busy and annoyed the funders. Chairman kept his distance. It was another banquet paid for by the trust fund children to funnel money to the organization. He hated Sam's presence. As the Lincoln room was clearing, he followed Sam to the men's room. The two men stared at the wall, ready to argue while relieving themselves. "Some performance out there," Chairman said. "Your father was a good man." "You act like I didn't know him." "I knew him well, and I knew what he thought about you." "I'm sure you do." "We both live off Daddy's money," Chairman barked at Sam. "Mine was the result of love. Yours is pity. You're a snake who couldn't even get that right." Sam did not offer a rebuttal. He zipped up, nodded, and moved along. He also said he liked the bottle too much, but you were on steady ground. Years of building up the organization meant nothing to the chairman, because the conversations he should have had with Esquire were reserved for Sam. His father's office was a cold place where he would play, listen, and hear his father behave as a chameleon with each meeting. Of course, these resources are essential and should be free. Yeah, these lazy asses never worked a day in their lives. They're mooching off the system. I'm very sorry for your loss. Another day, another shooting. They don't care. Animals. He wished his father would have appreciated his aggression more. Esquire's soft side was difficult to decipher as honest or calculated. Esquire passed away amid Anthony Morris's first mayoral campaign. 4 years later, Anthony was running for re-election and carried himself with the confidence an incumbent should. The city budget was balanced and the tax revenue was keeping Harrisburg afloat. Powerful old Democrats had him in a gubernatorial pipeline, and a successful second term would be crucial to his ascent. While going through the motions each day, his mind was fixed on understanding whether the chairman would unlock doors for him or grow into an eventual political rival. Grumblings about a challenge were written off with the understanding of chairman's lifestyle and his intentional detachment from the problems of everyday life. Anthony continued to be an anomaly in his own community. Unmarried and without children, he wished to portray a playboy image, but can only maintain it for the first year of his tenure. Criticism came from his voters and his old neighbors when they learned of his old city condo. He became vigilant of the media parked outside his building each night. When he saw camera operators alone, he knew whatever the story was would be a fleeting snippet in the 24-hour cycle. When a microphone and a young, sexy reporter in a Pico were present, he knew he would have some explaining to do. Discussions of potholes and drug activity were common in the same places where his harshest critics lived. Chairman had the ear of the council members. When it came time for community meetings to build the solutions, opposition from the neighborhood and red tape from the city council made movement impossible. Compromise was out the window. So he played the game. Being a good boy moved the needle faster, and he remained a mediator for Chairman and Sam. He remained notably absent from the Gladwin parties, and often found himself sitting between Rose and Sam on a bench in Rittenhouse Square, pre- or post-cocktails. He never could tell. The cycle of poverty runs parallel to the cycle of charity, Anthony, Rose explained. It's unfortunate, but surely you've picked up on it. I have. I run this show designed to keep the city attractive, and it turns my stomach. By the time you're running again, it won't, Sam said. You'll numb yourself somehow. I hate being the star of the show. I want to vomit every time I tighten my tie, Sam. His neighborhood was collapsing more than it had during his childhood. He had to entertain potential businesses and rehearse his every word to appear natural, something he learned from watching Esquire and Sam. Hours before an event were spent pacing and muttering in the realm of insanity to maintain his power. Sam composed himself and leaned in close to the mayor's ear. It's 4 more years. Bury it deep inside of you and fill your bank account. The trauma will go away. He was stern, emoting more than usual. We're in public, Anthony. There are always eyes on you, Sam said. As their power grew, Anthony and Sam stopped chasing and instead became hounded by the ghosts of their past. They each despised it. They were no different from their overworked fathers, except they traded tools for suits, and the work, which never seemed to end, for children. Their identities were known only to the newspapers and often invisible in the mirror each morning. After 3 years of suppression, defense of the empire was needed, and each was better suited for this go. Anthony had become the mayor. Prior to his first run, Anthony arrived at Esquire's estate, and Samuel gave the old man and the young politician privacy. Coming up, we were taught that acquiring wealth was aspirational, Esquire said. When you step into a role, you cater to the affluence. You still desire it, but you're kept in check. There's an arm's length between you and the suit. That is to keep you away from the treasure. They'll give you a few nickels for something you believe in, but they do not want you in the room. In your case, Anthony, I'm sorry. They certainly will not let you in the room. Esquire stared at the young black man sitting across from him, awaiting a response. Esquire, I'm running for mayor. Politics need money more than the other way around, Esquire said. I am the mayor. The guy you see out there, he cuts ribbons and has lunch. I handle the morality. I understand the people. Still? Anthony asked. You're bad at fundraising. Yes, still. How do you feel about Councilwoman Jones? Esquire asked. I believe she's the best out there. You're welcome. She'll be essential to your election campaign. My firm won't be endorsing you. I need to keep my invitation to the Philadelphia Society. Remember, everybody has a boss. Esquire leaned on his cane more than usual. He was losing steam. We'll be there for you. By the middle of your term. My board members aren't ready for you. They're not progressive, and for some reason, they still enjoy lunch with this mayor. After your victory, I'll say a few nice words. Maybe you'll get a check. They laughed. Esquire wheezed and struggled to stand. Anthony leaned in to help. He smacked the future mayor's hand away. You're not the help, and don't let anyone tell you different. Esquire rose to his feet. He stood above the young man. Anthony felt 15 again. Be gentle, but not a pushover.
Smile. It's good to get high and never come down. It's good to be king of your own little town. Yeah, the world would swing. Oh, if I were king. Can I help it if I still dream time to time? It's good to be king and have your own way. Get a feeling of peace at the end of the day. And when your bulldog barks and your canary sings, you're out there with winners. It's good to be king. Yeah, I'll be king when dogs get wings. Can I help it if I still dream time to time? Your own world, it helps to make friends. It's good to meet girls, a sweet little queen who can't run away. It's good to be king, whatever it pays. Excuse me if I have some place in my mind time to time.